Dr. James Mack, a short story of his life. Hattie Evelyn and Dr. James Mack. Backdrop. At the time of Dr. James Mack's birth on the 12th of December 1860, South Carolina was a hotbed of secessionist sentiment. On November 6th, Abraham Lincoln had won the hotly contested presidential election, and soon thereafter, America's slave-holding states started to secede from the Union because Lincoln's victory was seen as a threat to the institution of slavery. The fascinating story of Dr. James D.J. Mack's birth and early life, though not by any means uncommon in the slaveholding South, reads like an epic novel that inspires more questions than answers. While records and oral stories passed down from DJ and Hattie G and their children gave us a great foundation for building this story, years of family research and DNA analysis have allowed us to produce a solid paper trail consisting of hundreds of records that corroborate what we previously knew only in part and through limited sources. Dr. James Mack was born in Effingham, South Carolina. His father, George Washington Bird, was the 34-year-old son of Redden Bird and Hannah Scott Bird, owners of the Redden Bird Plantation. His mother, Charlotte Stevenson, was a 16-year-old enslaved of Mary Stevenson Bird, George Washington Bird's wife. Effingham, South Carolina, the place of DJ's birth, is a small rural community located about 100 miles northeast of Charleston and due south of Florence. It has existed since at least 1733, was designated a county in 1777, and by the early 1800s, small land grants farms like Redden Birds that were dependent on the labor of enslaved Africans were growing rapidly. Enslaved labor fueled the rapid economic growth that propelled the region's white landowners from meager subsistence to great wealth. Census records and slave schedules show that from 1820 to 1840, the Bird family's human capital grew from 4 to 26 enslaved. To sustain his slaveholding way of life and the wealth that came from it, DJ's white father, George Washington Bird, in either March or April 1861, enlisted to fight in the Confederate Army. A week after his birth, South Carolina was the first to formally secede from the Union on December 20, 1860. In February of 1861, South Carolina became one of the founding member states of the Confederacy, and on April 12, 1861, Confederate troops stationed in Charleston, South Carolina, attacked the Union garrison at Fort Sumter, and this attack marked the beginning of the American Civil War. When George Washington Bird was born on March 29, 1826, his father, Redden, was 41 and his mother, Hannah, was 23. According to census records, George was the 8th of 13 children born to Redden and Hannah Bird. Upon Redden's death in 1858, George inherited much of his land and some of his enslaved workers. On July 29, 1852, when he was 26 years old, George married 26-year-old Mary Stevenson, and their son Redden Pulaski Bird was born in October of 1856. When Mary left her father Jephthah Stevenson's farm to settle with her new husband in Darlington County, she brought with her a 26-year-old mixed-race enslaved Hannah and her 8-year-old mixed-race enslaved daughter Charlotte, who would become DJ's mother. George Washington Bird fought in the Civil War with the 8th South Carolina Regiment of the Confederate Army and suffered severe injuries in the Battle of Beans Station on November 14, 1863, under the command of General James Longstreet. He died in Georgetown, South Carolina on December 15, 1863, as a result of war injuries. It is believed that George Washington Bird's death, along with Mary's blood relationship, played a pivotal role in DJ being raised as a white child named David. George's death meant that Mary Stevenson Bird had now become the owner of their plantation and the overseer of their population of enslaved people. Charlotte Mack Stevenson. Charlotte was born on the Thomas Stevenson plantation in 1844 or 1845 to Hannah, who was listed in Jephthah's 1840 will. The word plantation was used rather broadly in the 1800s, but includes the huge rice and indigo producing operations on the Charleston coast, as well as small family farms that worked fewer than 50 enslaved. According to slave schedules and other records, the Stevenson family fell into the latter category. Probate records confirm that Hannah had been willed to Mary Stevenson upon the death of Mary's father, Jephthah, in 1840. Hannah and her child, Charlotte, went with Mary Stevenson Bird to the Redden Bird plantation in 1852, when Charlotte was about 8 years old. There are no records stating who Charlotte's father was, but the most likely candidate, according to DNA, is Mary's brother Thomas Stevenson. The 1840 will of Thomas Stevenson. The truth revealed. DJ's mother, Charlotte, passed away in 1864 or 1865 when he was 3 or 4 years old. The circumstances surrounding her death are not known, nor is it clear if DJ had ever lived with his birth mother, or knew her to be his mother. Whatever the circumstances, DJ, who could pass as white, was raised by Mary Stevenson Bird and lived in the Bird household believing that he was white, and that Mary was his mother. During this time, his name was not DJ Mack, but David James Bird, the white son of Mary Stevenson Bird and George Washington Bird, who had died while fighting for the Confederacy. One of the great mysteries of his childhood was how Mary Bird was able to raise David as a brother to her natural son Redden. Was it because of her kind heart, financial reasons, or because she was DJ's grand aunt? According to Mack family lore, in either 1874 or 1875, when DJ was 14 or 15 years old, he found out his true history and learned that he was not white. According to legend, there are 3 versions of how he was told. The first version states that it was during a fight with his half-brother Redden. Also, it is important to note that DJ is biologically Redden's half-brother because they share the same father. But since Charlotte was also most likely Mary Stevenson Bird's niece, that DJ would be his second cousin too. The second version states that it was revealed during an encounter with a relative of his mother Charlotte. And the third version states that it was revealed to him as he began to question his changing appearance, as his skin began to darken. We cannot say for sure how it happened, and the truth could be a combination of all 3 versions, but we do know that this revelation prompted a complete change in DJ's life. He changed his first name from David to Doctor, kept the James, and adopted Mack, the surname of his mother Charlotte's family, as his last name. A foundational aspect of America's chattel slavery system consisted of the dismantling of the black family, and the denial of a last name or family name was an integral aspect of this agenda. Instead of having a family name, enslaved black Americans often did not have a last name or were assigned the last name of their enslaver. However, this designation did not represent a familial connection, but instead a designation of ownership and property. If DJ's or David's last name upon his birth was Bird, it was not because he was George Washington Bird's son, but because he was considered to be his property. DJ appears to have recognized this aspect and chose to declare that he is no one's property by choosing his own name. He chose the name Mack. Recent DNA analysis confirms that Dr. James Mack, David James Bird, and his descendants are related to the descendants of Lawyer and Daniel Mack, families of Effingham. It confirms that Lawyer Mack was Charlotte's half-brother and DJ's uncle, who lived less than a half mile away from DJ in 1880. After officially changing his name around 1875, Dr. James D.J. Mack made another bold move when he married Hattie G. in 1878. Hattie was born in August of 1860, was the daughter of Mingle McCants and Hannah born G. McCants. Hattie was reported to be well educated for a young black woman of her time, having been given a basic foundation in local schools established for former enslaved during Reconstruction by Northern teachers. She also possessed a knowledge of farming and husbandry that was a valuable asset to DJ, who had not been taught these skills. Their son Columbus was born soon after their marriage in 1879. DJ and Hattie would eventually have 13 children, 6 born in Effingham and 7 in St. Stephen's County. All their children are listed in previous family history videos. The 1880 United States Federal Census. DJ's maternal uncle, Lawyer Mack, DJ, Hattie, and Columbus, Sir Thomas, DJ's granduncle, and Mary Bird, DJ's grandaunt. Purchasing land, building a family. DJ and Hattie built a large, healthy family based on 3 virtues: religious faith, education, and financial independence. The 1900 federal census shows that all the school-aged children who could read and write, and according to the oldest daughter Evelyn on Miss, their mother and father read to them regularly from the Bible, and the religious instruction began early. In addition to educating their children, DJ and Hattie began to purchase their own land. In 1892, they bought 10 acres of land in the city of St. Stephen in Berkeley County. By 1902, the family had grown to 12 children, and DJ purchased an additional 222 acres of land in the same location. DJ Mack's 2 purchases of land in St. Stephen's. Dr. James Mack estate as of 1951. Religious career and ministry. DJ and Hattie were gaining influence and respect in St. Stephen's and surrounding communities as their family expanded. Other than census records and oral histories, we do not have much documentation of farm and community life between 1880 and Hattie's death in 1916. But records indicate that the Mack family was very involved in religious and church activities. Historical records show that by 1880, 20-year-old DJ Mack had joined the Reformed Episcopal Church. Maybe because few blacks could read, or because of his conviction to his religion, he quickly became a lay reader and assistant rector in the 1880s. The Reformed Episcopal Church was organized in New York City on December 2, 1873, by 8 clergy and 20 laypersons who had been members of the Protestant Episcopal Church. Assistant Bishop George Cummins of Kentucky and Charles Edward Cheney, rector of Christ Church, Chicago, were founders. At the time of its founding, REC membership was equally divided between white and black parishioners. In June 1875, the General Council of the REC sent orders that all would be welcome, including all colored people of the state desiring to unite with the REC. This was most likely a major incentive for DJ Mack to join and remain loyal to REC, which was less than a decade old when he joined in 1880. During his 50 years of ministry, Dr. James Mack served as rector at Holy Trinity, Bethlehem, Nazareth, St. Michael's, Redeemer, Messiah, and Good Shepherd churches. References to him and his leadership are found in several books and documents pertaining to the history and development of the Reformed Episcopal Church. Because of his service to the REC, his portrait hangs in the Cummins Memorial Theological Seminary in Summerville, South Carolina, one of 3 theological seminaries established by the church. At least 3 of his sons, William, Pelzer, and Benjamin, also became rectors in the Reformed Episcopal Church. His daughter, Beulah, was so involved in church affairs that her picture hangs in the Cummings Institute along with her father's. 2 other sons, Daniel and John, became ministers in other denominations. The other 4 brothers became deacons, and a few of his grandsons attended Cummings Seminary before becoming ministers. A great loss. Hattie G. passed away on June 6, 1916, at the age of 55. She and D.J. Mack had been married for 40 years. The 1910 federal census shows that 6 years before her death, 9 of her children, of her 12 children, were still living at home. 1 year after Hattie's death, D.J., then 56 years old, married a neighbor, Rosa Campbell. The 1920 census shows D.J. and Rosa living in St. Stephen's with 4 of her children, Daniel, Beulah, Gabriel, and Carrie. Rosa passed away on October 22, 1926, at the age of 47. They had been married 9 years. In 1928, at the age of 69, D.J. married Louisa Simon Gathers and remained with her until his death on December 9, 1933. No children were born to these last 2 unions. Dr. James Mack was buried on family land in Mack Zion Cemetery in his beloved St. Stephen's. Researched and written by Deborah Mechanic Jones and Arthur Holmes. Edited by Barrett Holmes Pittner and Arthur Holmes. Slideshow and video by Arthur Holmes.